You're listening to the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
Black 33!
Live at the studio of Worldwide Sports Radio.
All right, let's go.
It's the Third and Long Show. And here's your hosts, Matty Caps and KT Hepburn.
And welcome, everybody, to a brand new show of Third and Long here at the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. We are live here in Hauppauge, New York. You got myself, Mr. Matty Capsule, and my co-host, producer, comrade, confidant, whatever you want to call him. I know him as Speedy Petey. You guys know him as Speedy Petey. Speedy Petey is here as well. But boy, oh boy, what a day to be alive today. I feel like I say that all the time, and we're every day is lucky to be alive. But today is a fantastic day to be alive because of all the drama that's happening in Major League Baseball right now. And I, for one, cannot wait to get into Major League Baseball and Alex Cora and Carlos Beltran and the Houston Astros and all that. And I cannot wait to rip apart the Boston Red Sox as well and Alex Cora. I can't wait to hear if, Jeff from Tampa calls in. He probably won't call in because he's probably too nervous about his Boston Red Sox and how much of an embarrassment they are to Major League Baseball. And now it just brings the question, with all this stuff going on and the suspensions and fines and stuff, maybe we should talk about Pete Rose a little bit. Should Pete Rose get into the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame? A lot of people, actually the majority of the people, believe Pete Rose belongs in the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame. I know I believe that he deserves to be into the Hall of Fame.
The funny thing is, I think he still actually has a section, despite actually not being his own plaque in the Hall of Fame. He still has a section there.
He has something along the lines there to be in the Hall of Fame. But we're going to get into that. We're going to get into Zion Williamson. He was supposed to make his debut tomorrow. Zion Williamson was supposed to make his debut tomorrow, but it looks like that's not happening.
Hopefully our former producer didn't book a flight already.
Yeah, well, you know what? He probably did. But it looks like that's not happening, and now it got moved to next week, January 22nd against the Spurs. So I'm going to get into that as well because I have a lot to say about that, as per usual, because a lot of people know how I feel about Zion Williamson. So that's going to be interesting when we do that a little bit later in the show. And then to end the show today, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get into the conference championships, the NFC, AFC championships. We're going to break that down a little bit. We're going to talk about some players and stuff. We're going to try and save a lot for tomorrow and stuff, but we're going to see how that pans out for us going forward. But Speedy, how's your day? How's everything going? How's life?
It's busy as usual. That's really it right now. Just grinding here.
Yeah, well, you do everything for the network and Errol and myself, and we're very lucky and fortunate to have a guy like Speedy with us. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get into it right now. If you haven't heard about this Major League Baseball sign stealing type of stuff going on right now, well, you should have. You should have. And I'm going to say this right now. It is a disgrace. It is disgusting what's going on. And really, the hypocrites in Major League Baseball are unbelievable. And again, we talked about this, and I talked about this the other day on Monday with Jim Crane, the owner of the Houston Astros, firing the general manager and firing A.J. Hinch, even though, regardless that they were suspended for a year, they got fired once all the implications came out and all that good stuff. And I, for one, am a very happy man to see all of that. I'm a very happy man to see him come down hard on him to try and save the reputation of the Houston Astros. But now it comes into play that Alex Cora and the Boston Red Sox are not too are not two ones to get away with anything. And let's be real, ladies and gentlemen. I am sure that there are more than 2 teams out there that cheated from sign stealing and all that stuff. I am 100% positive that there's more than 2 teams, okay? And I'm a Yankee fan, and we're going to talk about that with Alex Cora trying to implicate that DeCarlos Beltran may have had the Yankees cheated in that London series. Like, get the hell out of here. Out of all series.
All right, so that's
wait. But hold on. Out of all series, you're going to pick the London where both teams are at a disadvantage because they're not their home field confines. They're not going to have cameras in places that these teams can do. Your best thing you can get is the London games because the New York Yankees torched your pitching. You guys torched the Yankees pitching as well. No one pitches well in London.
I'm sure they have cameras there. Just I don't know if they had them for
baseball.
No,
but that's what I'm saying. Yeah, of course there's cameras there, Speedy. But I'm saying that they know where the cameras are or they put them there. Like, come on, out of all things. So we're going to get into that. But Speedy,
that'd be quite a connection to have if they had.
Absolutely,
if they had a connection in England to be able to manipulate all that.
100%. But Speedy, talking about this situation and stuff with the sign stealing and everything, and we already talked about the Houston Astros, but now we're going to talk a little bit about Alex Cora and the Boston Red Sox. And the thing with Alex Cora is that he admitted to wrongdoings to the Boston higher-ups and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. He didn't try to hide it, okay? He admitted to playing a central role in the sign-stealing scheme that helped the Houston Astros win the 2007 World Series, okay? But Boston Red Sox owner John Henry, Tom Werner, the chairman, and President Sam Kennedy, and L'Chaim Bloom, whatever, they really, it looks like they kind of just brushed it under the rug, to be honest with you. And you look at what happened to Jeff Luhnow and A.J. Hinch, they were suspended for a year and obviously substantially fired, okay? But Cora, who was mentioned prominently in Major League Baseball's ruling, and he and the Red Sox decided to part ways Tuesday night. So, Speedy, I ask you this. You look at all this stuff coming out now with Alex Cora and now the sign stealing and all that stuff. What do you think about that, and what do you think going forward what needs to happen?
I think depending on what other evidence they find, and I think it'll take a while because it's a replay room. We've known that for a while. I think the Red Sox could be hit harder. I know people are saying that the Astros will still get hit harder just because they were the first to do it, which, all right, that's fair. But with the Red Sox, there is, again, more influence from Cora. There's probably, again, with the Red Sox, they're a bigger organization, obviously a lot more money invested into there, so they can do more in terms of manipulating if that was available to them. And like I said on Homestretch yesterday, and I think on your show on Monday, there's more technology in a replay room that you could get more signs available, different spots on the field, different audio technology, TriCaster, stuff like that. So I think they can get hit harder. We'll see. Now, again, the players, I don't know how many of them were involved just being kind of new to the whole process. The Red Sox are they're obviously a talented team, but they had a lot of guys that were scrappy players, new guys that just came over there, Steve Pearce, Jackie Bradley, guys like that hit well in the postseason, and maybe now we know why. But at the same time, it was still something that was kind of new to them, whereas the Astros, it seemed like those players had more knowledge about it, and obviously the front office did as well. So it's interesting to see how that's going to happen, but I do think because of the technology, the Red Sox as an organization could get punished more if they used more to be able to do it. And it also will depend on how many games they use it in, too, which is very interesting. We know the Astros...
What do you mean in how many games? They probably used it in every single home game they had. Let's be real here.
That's fair. I'm just saying it's... The Astros, we know, did it in the ALCS and in the World Series. And I think they're really only laying the hammer down because it was the postseason. If it was, say, 5, 6, even 10 regular season games, they'd get punished, but I don't think they get punished the way they did. The fact that it was the postseason in 2 7-game series that were close and easily was altered by that, that's what laid it down on the Astros. The Red Sox, again, kind of the same thing. Now, again, they dominated more in their postseason, so maybe they would have won even without the sign stealing, because they won in 5 games. They won in 5 games against Houston in 2018 in the ALCS. So they might have won anyway. But if they still use that extra technology involved, and depending on how many games they use it, they still could get hit harder.
Yeah, and listen, that whole situation, it is really interesting, and with all the news coming forward about all of that, because if you look at that, there's a bunch of stuff that implicated them, and you look at not Carlos Beltran, you look at Alex Cora, who again was the bench coach in that 2017 season with the Houston Astros. The next season, he's hired as the Boston Red Sox manager, and he just somehow wins he somehow wins the World Series his next year going forward. I mean, it is a tad bit fishy,
of course,
that he somehow won the World Series with everything under the sun. But I do give Alex Cora credit. He didn't shy away from it. He admitting to doing all that stuff. Okay? I mean, obviously, it's not a good look for Major League Baseball. It's not a good look for Alex Cora. It's not a good look for those organizations. And you sit here and you think, what should the penalties be for these type of situations? How hard should Major League Baseball come down on these guys? Should they get the death penalty like college basketball gets the death penalty? What should happen in Major League Baseball to make this stop happening? Because, I'm going to say this very, very clearly, and again, there are more than 2 teams that have cheated in sign stealing. And I'm sure every single team in Major League Baseball, one way or another, including my Yankees, cheated one way or another throughout this. It just so happens the 2 teams that won the World Series in 17 and 18, they got caught red-handed.
That's why I'm saying it's more of a postseason thing still. I don't think they would really lay it on a team that was just doing it in the regular season and maybe still lost anyway. The fact that it was the postseason and it was 2 of the best teams in the league, I think, show a lot.
Yeah, no, it's possible. I mean, I'm not going to say, and I'm not going to disagree with you there. Obviously, we don't know the full stories as they're all still coming out. But now, Speedy, I ask you this now. You look at the Red Sox and Alex Cora, you look at Alex Cora getting fired and stuff, and he gave his apology, all this stuff. But will the Boston Red Sox use Alex Cora's dismissal as a pretext for a teardown and rebuild going forward? Now, keep in mind, you still got David Price under contract, Chris Sale. You're still working on Mookie Betts right now. But will they use this as a pretext for a teardown in the next couple years?
It depends on what kind of value they can get. I think this kind of thing looms on other teams where the Red Sox are kind of in a state of panic. We don't know how this GM, now in this kind of role, is going to be able to handle it. And again, he's a smart guy. He comes from a Rays organization that is a very good, well-oiled machine for a low payroll team. Now, obviously, adjusting to the Red Sox is a whole different.
But also
thing.
keep in mind, they're trying to shrink payroll, this Boston Red Sox team.
Right. We knew that even before they were caught cheating, though. But still, it worries me in the sense of, are these guys really that good? In terms of how other teams would think. Are these players really that good, or did they get aided by this sign stealing? Because that could, in essence, lower. I'm not going to say every player's trade value, but some players' trade value, where the Red Sox may get lowballed for it. And if that's the case, you might be better off keeping them and hoping for the best with it working, because the Red Sox are cash-strapped, and they're going to be cash-strapped anyway, regardless of if they rebuild or not. But I think the only way to do that is if you do get quality offers. Now, Shane Bloom comes from an organization in the Rays that have made great trades over the years, getting great value for some of their core pieces.
And he had nothing to do with this Boston Red Sox with the situation.
No. But I still think in terms of a contending team potentially taking in a piece of the core of the Boston Red Sox, they could definitely use that kind of you got aided by sign stealing leverage against the Red Sox, where they may not want to trade the top offer that Bloom is trying to offer them. Now, Bloom is going to, again, hardball them all they can and try to get the best out of them. It just could be hard, though, especially for the hitters, and that's where most of the Red Sox tradable pieces are, because hitters benefit the most from sign stealing. If they factor that in, they might have some leverage and say, no, we're not going to give you our number one prospect or this group of prospects, or maybe the Red Sox are seeking a pitcher. Maybe they're not rebuilding, they're just retooling, and they just want pitching. We don't know what they're going to do, but that could be leverage against them. And if they don't get those kinds of offers, just ride out, stay the course, and just hope you get a good manager and hope you get out of your salary cap hell.
And that's the whole thing. You look at this team, the Boston Red Sox, they're a very, very weird organization. And I say this because this is a team that fell a game short in the postseason in 2011. They waved goodbye to the manager and general manager who delivered them their first World Series title in 86 years.
Well, let's remember they also collapsed.
But hold on, yeah. Threw them in most of the starting rotation under the bus in the press, and they did so, and they went in a completely crazy direction by hiring Bobby Valentine at that time. Remember when they hired Bobby Valentine?
Oh, Dustin Pedroia still remembers.
This is a team who, a year and a half after winning the World Series, pushed out their general manager again, who put that club together by hiring Dave Dombrowski and then fired him less than a year after he helped deliver another World Series win. This is a team who, in grand Red Sox tradition, saw members of the front office anonymously quote in stories to the local press after all these moves saying that really all the bad stuff was the fault of the guys who were shipped off. So they were trying to put the blame, in essence, on the guys who were being shipped off. They weren't taking the blame. They didn't think they were at fault for all their situation. So tell me, Speedy, would you be shocked if in the coming days there was a story in which some anonymous Red Sox staffer, front office person said that they were frankly blindsided by what Cora has done and disrupted all the plans the organization had? But also, before you answer, remember that much of the front office is new and thus had totally clean hands from the 2017-18 period and can say such things with plausible deniability.
It's a tough call because the Red Sox are different where they're more old school. Even though you're right, they've had some ownership changes, some front office changes. They're still more old school, whereas the Astros were a struggling organization for a while. They had a good run in the early 2000s. They went to a World Series and got swept by the White Sox. But beyond that, they're kind of a phasey, not greatly run organization historically. They were good in the 80s at times when they were in the National League. That was really it. They're not really that good of an organization beyond that. The Red Sox, yeah, they had the curse for a while, but they were still dishing out Hall of Famers. They still had talent. They still had good teams. They just crumbled in the postseason. They were the Cubs of the American League for the longest time. So it was one of those things where I don't know if their front office is going to have as much influence. Now, again, it's interesting because it's new, just because there's a lot of new guys. But being that it's a ownership group that is, I guess, more traditional, I don't know if they were involved in it as much as I would believe the Astros are. And it's possible just because of that they could have been blindsided by it for sure.
But again, now let me ask you, would it shock you before spring training Mookie Betts and his $27 million deal, 2020 deal, were traded to a contender for a couple of prospects?
I don't think it'll be that early. I think.
And would it shock you if they dumped David Price enough of his salary to ensure that the club came in under the $208 million payroll in 2020?
Well, that would be dependent on the cost of the buyout. I don't know what that would be. Because nobody's going to take on that contract from another team unless the Red Sox are going to trade other prospects to do it, which they don't have much to trade when it comes to farm systems. So I can't imagine them doing that with Price unless it's a pretty easy buyout. Like, I don't know. But going back to Betts, I actually think because of this, those kinds of teams will be more patient with Betts and wait for his value to fall even more, where they can get him on an absolute bargain. Because if they use that leverage against him, like I said earlier, and also if this goes on and more evidence comes out, the longer it goes on, and this is a constant with all trades too, not all trades, but most trades, the longer it waits, the less value you end up getting. So between that typical trade logic and the more evidence that gets revealed later on about the Red Sox into the season during spring training, that will only drive the value down where more teams can get involved. And that's where I think it'll heat up a little more for a contending team.
I think it's going to be really interesting to see how they handle the Mookie Betts situation, just because of everything that's going on, and within the Boston Red Sox front office and getting rid of Alex Cora. I'm intrigued to see how they're going to handle Mookie Betts and his contract and all that stuff. Can I see him being traded? Absolutely, I could see him being traded.
I think he will get traded. I think it's just a matter of, I don't think he'll get traded as quickly as people think.
Which is true. But again, it is going to be interesting to see what happens with Alex Cora, what happens with that. And now that brings me to you, Speedy. It brings me to Carlos Beltran and Alex Cora, because Alex Cora decided to, try to throw Carlos Beltran under the bus, saying the Yankees cheated in 2019, which obviously didn't help them because the New York Yankees couldn't hit worth a crap when it really mattered. Okay? So I ask you this. What do you think this means for Carlos Beltran and the New York garbage from Queens? Because, again, the Mets are assessing the situation concerning Beltran, and I'm intrigued to see how they handle this.
Yeah, I'm surprised he actually wasn't suspended initially. I actually thought he might have been, not for the whole season, because.
But what would you suspend him for? Remember, he was a bench coach over there with Alex Cora?
He was a player.
Oh, he was a player for them.
He was a player.
That's right. He was playing in 2017.
He was DHing
then the next season, he went to the front office of the New York Yankees.
Yeah, he was DHing a lot of the time. He was just a backup outfielder for them, but he was still playing a lot in the postseason because he's a great postseason player. So. He was a player, so I don't think he'll get it harshly. I don't think he would have gotten much, maybe 20 games at most. I don't think it would have been that much, but it still I thought would have been something. And again, if there was more evidence that he is tied in later, then I think he would have gotten suspended within the season, maybe later in the season. But I don't think it would have been initially any more than 20 games. That being said, I still thought he would have gotten suspended, so I still am in the thought process of he'll get suspended at some point. It might be something like the NFL was doing with Ezekiel Elliott, where they found evidence, then they didn't find evidence, and then they suspended him late in the season. You might get that kind of thing with Beltran here, where he might get suspended, but it might be in the middle of the season once they find more. And I think that'll be the case with a lot of players that were involved on that particular Astros team, and even players with the Red Sox later on, because they're going to be investigating the players, too, who were involved. And I do think certain players, again, I don't think they will get suspended for as long as the ownership and the managing would, because I don't think they were the focal point of it all, but they were still the ones benefiting from them. They were still the ones knowing it was going on, so they're going to get suspended some too.
I'm going to say this. As a player, I think every single player of the Houston Astros should be suspended from that season, okay? And with Carlos Beltran as a whole working in that situation, I just don't know if he should be suspended. Now, again, if he came over and gave the Yankees some insight or whatever, then Carlos Beltran should be gone for life, to be honest with you. Not even suspended. He should be done with Major League Baseball for life as well, if he's implicated, and that's the case. Because
see, I don't know if he was a primary, though. So
I'm not saying he was a primary there, but when he came over to the Yankees front office position, we don't know what kind of stuff he said, what kind of insight he had to the Houston Astros when they won the 2017 World Series. We don't know what kind of person what he was doing in the New York Yankees front office.
So why would that be his fault if he's trying to be a witness of, all right, these guys did this?
Because who are we to say that he didn't help the New York Yankees do the same thing is what I'm getting at.
Yeah, but at the same time, again, why would that correlate if they're two different scandals, if the Yankees did do something? If the Yankees did something, all right, maybe it was a commonality. But if he's just the one describing the information, if he's leveraging it onto these teams so, again, they could accuse the players, I don't know why he would be at fault. If anything, he's doing the right thing and making sure that there's justice to the Astros.
Justice to the Astros, but again, he would only be doing this because he got caught. Now, again, if he got caught helping the New York Yankees do the same exact thing, you don't think the Yankees should be penalized? You don't think something should happen?
If the Yankees get caught, yeah.
But this is what I'm saying. Like, you don't think Carlos Beltran should be penalized if that's the case and all that stuff? I 100% think that is the case. And again, ladies and gentlemen, for calling me a biased person or whatever because I'm a Yankee fan, I truly believe every single team in Major League Baseball cheats one way or another. So if that's saying I think the Yankees cheated, then yeah, I think the Yankees cheated as well, if you want me to be honest with you. In what way? I don't know. But again, you could say this about every Major League Baseball team. Because listen, the Astros and the Red Sox are the ones that got caught right now. It's not to say that no other teams are going to get caught later on. You have to keep that in mind. Who's to say next year the Indians aren't going to get caught? Who's to say the Dodgers aren't going to get caught? And all that stuff. Like, it's something that we're going to have. This is going to be going on a while, obviously, and it's something we're going to have to keep our eyes on going forward with that situation. So, Speedy, with the garbage from Queens keeping their eye on the Carlos Beltran situation and all that stuff, what do you think happens to him? What do you think should happen to him? I'm going to say if he does get caught doing stuff.
I think if he does get caught, I think it depends on how quickly he gets caught, and he'll get suspended at some point. Again, because he's a player and wasn't, again, the primary beneficiary. I think it was still the manager. I think it was still the front office, GM, whatever, even the ownership group. I don't know if he'll get suspended as much. Like I said, 20 games probably is the maximum. And again, I still think it's something that could go on later in the season. For the Mets, again, they're going to have to ride it out because at this point, again, you're taking a blind chance on a manager this late where, again, you don't know how that's going to work right away. The Astros kind of don't have a choice because obviously they fired Hinch and the Red Sox fired Cora, so they're kind of in that situation. And they still have the talent to be able to leverage that, whereas the Mets really don't. So I don't know if they're going to be able to do that. That being said, we've seen so many inexperienced managers hired where he might get a quick leash if that ends up being the case. But if that does happen, I think it will be later in the season, and I think it would also depend on their performance too. Now, again, if there is involvement, like you were saying, potentially with the Yankees on the Mets, and maybe that's why they're playing well, then I would hope that that would be investigated quickly too. So, because I don't want anything more to fall out with that either. So it's definitely an interesting front, but I think he'll maintain his job right now. We'll see what happens later in the season. I still think he will get suspended, whether
one way or another.
Whether it's the beginning of the season, the first 20 games, or middle of the season at a random point, 20 games, I think he'll still get suspended. But for now, he really was a player, so he was more benefiting off of it than I think a primary knowledge of it and primary, I guess, motive more than anything else. So I don't think he'll get it as harsh as obviously Hinch and Cora just did.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see how this all pans out. And again, we have to keep our eyes open with these stories because this is going to be going on for a very long time because the Major League Baseball needs to do something. I'm intrigued to see what's going to happen to Alex Cora. You hear so many different rumors every which way. He's going to be suspended for life. He's going to be thrown out of Major League Baseball, all this stuff. So I'm really interested to see how this is all going to play out, especially for the Boston Red Sox and Alex Cora, who is now unemployed. But ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go to a quick break, and when we come back here at the Worldwide Sports Radio Network, you guessed it, Zion Williamson time. And boy, oh boy, do I have a lot to say about this bust already here at the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. You are listening to the Third and Long Show. And here's your hosts, Matty Caps and KT Hepburn.
1-845-478-3272 is the number to reach us here at the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we have our first caller of the day, Mr. Jeff from Tampa. Jeff, what's going on, buddy?
How are you, Matty? What a wonderful day, isn't it?
It's an outstanding day. I didn't think I would hear from you.
Why not?
Well, I mean, everything that's going on with the Boston Red Sox and everything, I didn't expect to hear from you.
Why not? It is what it is. You know, they cheated. They got, the Duke getting canned. It is what it is.
Okay. Listen, I was just
Dude,
curious.
I don't hide and I don't duck. I'm not a Cowboys fan. You notice they're like cockroaches when the lights came on as soon as they didn't make the playoffs. Have you heard from a Cowboys fan recently?
No,
Yeah,
the Beeve hasn't called the show. I haven't heard anything from the Beeve in a little while.
Right. You know, unless they're talking about Dak Prescott winning 3 Super Bowls in a row, they don't want to hear it. I'm here for it. I don't care. Alex Cora cheated. So did the Yankees. So did the Astros.
I think every team cheated in one way or another, and that's something I'm going to stick to fully.
I mean, you can't really say that. Listen, I'm only sticking to what's provable, and what's provable. It's Cora, it's Hinch, it's Carlos Beltran, it's the Astros, it's the Red Sox, it's the Yankees.
How is it the Yankees?
Oh, really? Carlos Beltran? Dude, who did Carlos Beltran work for last year?
Listen, I know he was in the front office, but there has been nothing implicated about the New York Yankees at this current time, so that's why I'm saying.
Go and watch the clip of Alex Cora when they.
I know what he said. I know. And do you think Alex Cora has any credibility right now about anything? I know what he was hinting at when he spoke. I'm not stupid. I listened. I know what he was hinting at about Carlos Beltran. But let's be real here, Jeff. If he's really going to bring up, though, the London games when you guys got your butts whipped, okay, that is on neutral, fair ground. How can anybody possibly have cameras anywhere in that stadium? It's almost impossible.
Listen, I agree. All I'm saying is, dude, without even being asked about devices or anything like that, that's what Cora hinted at, right? And let's be honest about the whole thing. Do you think Carlos Beltran was in on this big cheating scandal? And it is. It's a huge cheating scandal. And then went to the Yankees and all of a sudden found Jesus and was like, you want to know what? I know all of this stuff and I'm not going to use it. That's what you're telling me? He went to the Yankees and found Jesus.
Listen, and Jeff, I don't know if you heard me earlier when we were talking about this. I said that the Yankees cheated one way or another. But as of now, there are only 2 teams that are implicated on charges, and that are the Boston Red Sox.
No. So, now listen. Now let's be fair about this. The Red Sox have not been implicated. Alex Cora is being punished for what he did with the Astros.
Alex Cora is being punished, but he's come out and said that he told the front office.
Hold on now, Matty. You want to paint with that brush, right? The Red Sox were not implicated in anything. And now listen, I totally believe that they cheated, right? But you're painting the Red Sox with it, even though...
I'm painting the Red Sox with it because he was the actual manager for the Boston Red Sox. It's just very, very fishy to me that he was the bench coach when they won the World Series, and then the next year he gets the managerial position for the Boston Red Sox, and they somehow win the World Series that year too.
Plus, again,
that's why it's a little fishy to me. But you are right. The Boston Red Sox, as an organization and such, is not being implicated. It is Alex Cora being implicated. Yes, not yet.
Because
and you're right,
think-
Jeff. You're right.
Not
I apologize.
Right, but this is what I'm saying. So now, if you want to do the whole, well, Alex Cora is with the Red Sox, so it's the Red Sox.
Then you could say the same thing
Beltran
because Beltran worked in the front office. He wasn't the actual manager of the team.
Oh,
There's 2 different.
Than a manager.
The manager has to run the whole team. Just because you work in the front office, yeah, in the owning the team or managing the team or being the boss, yeah, he's higher up than the actual manager. But he has nothing to do with the on-field stuff, and we don't even know personally what Carlos Beltran did for the New York Yankees.
So you think those 2 entities are completely separate? That they don't ever discuss anything with each other?
Oh no! I'm totally with you. I think they do discuss things, and again, we won't know. Where you and I are taking educated guesses right now.
Plus, again, they might have.
And you and I could be 100% wrong.
I think they're still investigating, though, for the Red Sox, so I think they still could be hit harder than people realize, especially if they use all the replay technology available to them, because there's more in that room than just one camera of the Astros.
So that's my thing.
I'm fully on board with the speculation that the Red Sox cheated. They probably did. They haven't been implicated.
No, you're right.
Probably
Not
did.
yet, because I think they're still investigating.
You're
They're
right.
trying to make sure they get everything thorough.
but there was a tit for tat a few years ago with the Red Sox and Yankees, and they found both of them to be cheating.
I don't remember.
The Apple Watches.
Oh, the Apple Watches, yes. Oh, the Apple Watches, yes.
Right, and then all of a sudden they went, the Yankees complained, and they said, you're using devices, and then what happened? No punishment because the Red Sox turned around and saw them using iPads in the bullpen.
And listen, you are 100% right. I'm not saying I'm on board with the Yankees possibly cheating, but I'm going to tell you this. I think every Major League Baseball team cheats, if you want me to be honest with you. I don't think any team is not has not cheated in one way or another when it comes to stuff like this. Yes, the Red Sox. Yes, Alex.
Go
ahead.
There's things though that are like over the line, right? Like there's a marginal cheating, which is like pine tar. What kind of real advantage you get?
Yeah, exactly.
Rule, but
grip on the baseball to throw a certain pitch. Like I get it, the pine tar, whatever.
Right, but this is cheating on a whole nother level. I don't think beyond this group of people, the Beltrans, the Coras, the Hinches, that group of people, I don't think that this kind of level of cheating is widespread in baseball.
Maybe to a point.
I think it could be, but again, if these penalties are harsh, it might shy more teams away from doing it too. If it did happen, it would have been only in the replay era, which is 2014 to now. If somebody did it before the Astros, so I don't know how widespread it'll be, but it probably still happened at certain points. But again, what they're trying to investigate, I think, is really just contending teams because it's a postseason punishment. Think about how
fast it got snuffed out, though.
Wait, say that again?
Right. Think about how fast the whole thing got snuffed out, though, because it was going on for a full year, and they were aware. But none of those people that were doing it had left the building yet. So it went on for a year, right? Then when those guys started leaving the building and it started to grow, everyone was caught so instantly that, I find it hard to believe that this kind of thing would be that widespread just because of how quickly everybody got caught.
Yeah, I think something's going to happen very, very soon, and I actually said that on Monday with how quickly everything happened. I think more stuff is going to happen quickly too, especially with the Boston Red Sox, especially with Alex Cora and that situation going forward. I'm intrigued to see what's going to happen with Alex Cora. What do you think is going to happen with Alex Cora, Jeff?
I'm just guessing. Probably something on the same level as A.J. Hinch, so a year suspension, right? In that neighborhood.
I'm hearing banned for life.
I don't know who the architect of the whole thing was. Who was, because the report said it was a cheating scandal driven by players.
Of course.
Why are no players being
Agreed with you. And again, that's something I said earlier in the show too.
The other question,
I think everybody on the Houston Astros player-wise should be suspended. Why do you think Altuve said not to rip his shirt off after he hit that game-winning home run? Does anybody remember that? That's being talked about all over the media. Why Altuve said not to rip his shirt off, and he was getting really angry not to rip his shirt off and all that stuff.
The other question of it too, because I think people are correlating Cora with both instances, which is fair because he was on both teams. The other question is too was the Red Sox doing it prior to Cora getting there too, and maybe they just decided to catch the Astros because they won the World Series, because the Red Sox were a playoff team that year too, and if they were end up doing it maybe the same time, that might be easier for Cora maybe to only get a year, because I said on Monday and I said it on Homestretch yesterday, I think it's possible because he was in both cases he could get suspended indefinitely. But if they figure out that the Red Sox were doing it before that, or even the Astros were doing it before that too, before he got there, and maybe it was a longer span of time than we realize, because I do think it can be suspended. I think teams could have done this all the way back to 2014 when the replay system was initiated. That will help Cora's case in only getting suspended for a year, but I think just right now, judging both teams have done it, he's the mutual right now, I feel like he'll get more.
You're going to really see the difference show up if Jose Altuve hits 240 this year.
Well, that's the thing. And I'll be honest with you. Is it possible that he hits 240? Maybe, Jeff. It is very possible. If he
well, I don't know if that's possible, right? Because you still have to hit the ball.
Well, yeah, and that's the whole thing. You still have to make contact with the ball.
He's still one of the better contact hitters in the game, regardless.
Right, but listen, listen, he's been in the 330, 340 range now for how long? 4 or 5 years?
3 or 4 years, I think, not 5. 3 or 4.
He hit 330 in his MVP year, and I think he won a batting title before that.
Well, if he hits under 300, it's going to be talked about this year, 100%.
Right.
I think it'll be more judge of the power numbers more than the average.
Other dudes too. You were talking about Bregman for MVP. You were talking about one of the best young players in Springer. Like, how are all of these guys going to
Correa, all them guys. 100%. And that's the thing. Like, and don't get me wrong, if they hit what they have hit in the past few years, then kudos to them. Again, obviously you still have to hit the baseball, but if their numbers plummet, it's not a good look. That's one thing I can say. It's not a good look if their numbers plummet. Are you on board with that?
Yeah, no, it's completely fair. I mean, that's going to be the big tell, right? Because, listen, something like this I think is like steroids, right? You can take good players and make them better, good players and make them great, and average players and make them good, and that kind of thing.
Yeah, Altuve hit from 2014 to 2018. He hit no worse than 313 in those seasons.
Wow.
No worse than what, 330?
313 was his lowest from 2014 to 2018. Last year he was down. He hit 298.
But that's what I'm saying, though, right, is like, if Altuve comes out and hits 280 now, everyone's going to talk about it.
No,
everyone's going to talk about it. And if you're a Yankees fan, are you pissed? Like, because, I mean, Altuve is the one that deposited that home run against Chapman. Was that one of those cheat jobs?
Is it possible? Maybe. I mean, listen, Chapman's prone to giving up big home runs like that. It's not like it's never happened to Chapman before. And Altuve is who he is. Altuve's still a good hitter, I think, even if he didn't cheat or whatnot. But again, it's just the whole situation is just very, very fishy going forward.
Yeah, Chapman almost blew the World Series for the Cubs, allowing the home run to Rajai Davis.
Yeah. So again, the whole situation is just very, very, very fishy. But
it's going to be interesting to see what further investigation reveals.
But what happened? How would you feel if they come down hard on Alex Cora and say suspended for life? You're done.
First of all, that's not going to happen. Just for the reason that A.J. Hinch didn't get more. A.J. Hinch was the guy running the show. Luhnow and A.J. Hinch run the show in Houston.
Agreed.
It's not going to be worse than what they got.
I think it still depends on what's being used, though, with the Red Sox.
I think it could.
Tell me the number 2 guy in the dugout controls the whole universe.
Well, it depends on what kind of thing it had for the Red Sox, though. If the Red Sox are investigated more and are caught using more, then he could definitely get suspended. Kind of a combined thing for both things. If it was just him individually with the Astros, yeah. But you got to remember the Red Sox are still getting involved in this too.
Yeah, but that's not really going to matter, though, right? Because the Astros have been accused of doing it for multiple years, just like it would be with Cora. It's not going to be worse than what A.J. Hinch gets.
It depends on how much of a magnitude the Red Sox get caught by. Their investigation is far from complete. Because they're just the new one that broke out, 2 weeks ago? The Astros, we knew about this since November.
Oh, so if Alex Cora was doing it in Boston, that's worse than what A.J. Hinch was doing?
It's possible because their initial thing was they used a replay room, and there's more technology available in a replay room. Now, I'm not saying that the Red Sox weren't doing it before that, too. And if that's the case, maybe he won't. But if Cora comes over to the Red Sox as a manager and they only can catch them for 2018 and maybe this year, too, there's definitely something that says, all right, this guy's mutual to both. He'll get suspended for his year like the Red Sox, and then he'll also get suspended for parts of the Astros. That could lead it to be more.
I'm imagining that the worst of the punishment has been doled out.
It's possible.
That's my best guess.
It's possible, but again, you hear all these different rumors, banned for life and all this stuff, 5 years, all this nonsense.
Who's saying banned for life?
I'm just telling you what I've read.
Yankees fans?
No. What do you mean? I'm just telling you what I've read. Exactly. Yeah. We don't care. It is what it is. It's the other Yankee fans that care and they should be stripped and everything. Who gives a crap?
The other hot take that makes me laugh too is the Astros should be stripped of their titles. Why? All the teams implicated in that cheating scandal, which were the Red Sox, Astros, and Yankees, they were all competing against each other.
I know.
So it would be a pretty level playing field to me, right?
The title stripping would also depend on how many other teams get caught, too, because the Red Sox dominated that postseason where I think even if they were sign stealing, so they still might have won. Even if they weren't sign stealing, they might have still won anyway. So they don't win in 5 games against the Dodgers, they win in 6, or same thing with the Astros series. They really dominated that. And if you do that, if you don't take away from one, the other, are you really going to say, all right, the Astros will strip your title, but Red Sox, you were still dominant anyway. They're not going to do that. So either they're going to strip the title for both, or they're stripping the title for none, which obviously they took the none.
I mean, the organization that's going to hurt the most out of all of this is the Mets. If any team needed cheating, it was the Mets.
Well, I said that earlier. The Mets have so many injured players that they could definitely have some guys using cameras all year. You're Jed Lowry. You're not going to play forever. Go film.
I mean, that organization needs video rooms, corked bats, all the
steroids for all the players.
Steroids. Right. That organization needs cheating more than anyone else does.
The problem is they'll still lose anyway.
Are going to be just fine. Their deep pockets are going to prevent this from being like some devastating organizational blow where like this really might be the thing that takes the Astros down. They're not a team that traditionally spends a ton of money.
Nope.
No, you're right. Yes, you're right. Well, Jeff, thank you for that. We're going to take a quick break. You want to stay on? I'm going to talk a little bit about Zion Williamson.
I hate that fat little bastard. What did I tell you when he was coming into the league? I go, his weight is going to be an issue. It's going to keep him off the court. What's happened so far?
Jeff, stop taking away stop saying what I'm going to say, please.
I mean, that's what it is. He's going to be no good in the NBA. Everyone should just...
All right, Jeff, I wish you would stay on, but obviously you're not going to stay on because you're saying everything I'm going to say, so I'm going to have to let you go.
Go LSU. That's what I'll leave you with. You know what I'm saying?
I hate you.
They'd win by no less than 17, and Errol said I was crazy. What was the final score of that game? How much did LSU
42-25.
42-25.
Exactly 17.
If my math is correct, that would be 17.
Wait. Errol said they weren't going to win?
Errol picked Clemson like you did. And I actually, my mind was pretty close, too. I had them by 13, 41-28, I said. So I was pretty close, too. But Jeff did say no less than 17.
Well, Jeff, you were also texting me throughout that night. The first half, you were kind of scared.
Dude, when they started on their 4-yard line for the first 3 drives and they were going nowhere, I was like, oh, my God, I think I picked the wrong team.
Yep, that's what you texted me.
I said that to you.
And what did I say? A long game ahead of you, pal.
Like, a lot of game left.
A lot of game left.
Right, but when I said 42-17, what did you also say to me? LOL, no shot.
I didn't think it was going to be that high of a scoring. I said 31-28. I thought it was going to be a close game, and I didn't think it was going to be that high of a scoring. But again, I was wrong.
And once again, I say they're going to win by no less than 17. How did that happen, Speedy? How did I do that? Is that magic?
I still was amazed by the purple Gatorade that you were able to get that one. That was the pinnacle of your trifecta of betting.
Dude, I buried that parlay. I buried it. I had LSU, the over, and purple Gatorade. What's up?
Jeff, thanks for calling.
Matty, always a pleasure. Speedy, you're a good man, sir. I appreciate it. Errol is just a lowbrow idiot. No one likes Robbie Anderson radio.
Later, Jeff. Oh, man. Nobody likes Robbie Anderson radio. That's actually kind of funny. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I wanted to get into Zion Williamson talk. I obviously didn't get into Zion Williamson talk just yet. We still talked about Alex Cora. We had a call and stuff with that. But now we're going to go to break. And when we do come back from break, Zion Williamson, and we're going to talk about him and his debut next week. That was supposed to be tomorrow. We're going to get into that when we come back here at the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. You are listening to the Third and Long Show. And here's your hosts, Matty Caps and KT Hepburn.
1-845-478-3272 is the number to reach us here at the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. And now, Speedy, I ask you this, though. Did you see what Vinny Rubo wrote on the Facebook?
Oh, boy.
Did you see what he wrote to you, buddy?
I'll take a look.
You gotta take a little peek what he wrote to you.
I'll take a look.
And I'm intrigued to see your reaction to that.
You wrote it about me, or you wrote it about what I said about what Jeff said?
Well, look at his comment.
Let's see. I'm still trying to pull it up. Damn thing.
How don't you? I thought you have it in front of you.
No, I didn't. Let's see. Oh no! It wasn't even about the Zion thing. It was
No.
Speedy on drugs. Beltran will be gone as Mets manager in the next day or two. Again, if they catch him quickly, I don't know how quickly he'll get caught. This is a whole thorough investigation that started in November, and now the punishments were just handed down to Hinch and Luhnow. So we'll see if a player at the time, he wasn't a coach, he wasn't a manager, he was a player at the time, how quickly he'll get caught. It's possible. I'm not denying that. But I feel like just with the way they're still trying to investigate the Red Sox, they're still trying to get the harshest penalties down for them because theirs was a more sophisticated thing. I feel like they're going to focus less on that and focus on some of the players later is just what I think will happen.
Anything is possible.
I think he'll get suspended, and we'll see if the Mets do end up firing him anyway. I think it's a whole separate thing.
Well, we're going to keep our eye on that, but away from Major League Baseball, and now, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to talk about, in my opinion, that it looks like Zion Williamson might be a bust in the NBA. Now, this is a guy who is only 6'6". He weighs 285 pounds. He's an athletic freak, okay? You sit here, he hasn't played at all this season. He had a minor knee surgery back in October. It's now January. Okay, so he's been out for 3.5 months, right? October, November, December to January. 3 months. Okay? Speedy, I ask you. Now, he was supposed to be having his debut tomorrow. They pushed it back another week. Do you think we can honestly start saying that Zion Williamson will not be the NBA player that a lot of the idiots that I like to call him think?
Well, again, we have to see him play first. I think an injury definitely hinders the chance of him being what everyone thought he would be, I guess, earlier on. But in terms of a bust as an actual player, we'll have to see down the road. Will it hurt? Yeah, because, again, he relies on his athleticism, and if he still has these knee problems, it'll hinder him from being that. But, again, what do you define as a bust?
Well, you're pick number one. You have all this athletic freak. Everybody's touting you to be the next best thing in this NBA. You have to put up 28 and 12. You have to put up 28 and 15.
You're right. So, again, if you want to judge bust from that standpoint, again,
he's a bust.
It's more possible from that standpoint just based on the hype level. But you could still be a maybe slightly below level of what you're supposed to be player and still be good in the NBA. We don't know that. We have to see him play first. We have to see how that knee injury will affect him. But again, it definitely helps the case just because of that, just because he's a guy that's going to have to rely on his athleticism to be able to succeed because his other skills are still kind of raw. Obviously, his rebounding is still there. Obviously, inside game is still there. His passing, I think, is pretty good for a guy his size and someone who doesn't handle the ball, but he doesn't. Obviously, not a shooter, not a dribbler, and definitely his on-ball defense could be better too. So those skills, I think, will still be raw, and we'll have to see when he plays if they'll be able to do.
I'm going to say this, and I'm going to say this again over and over and over again. I am not a believer in Zion Williamson. I am not a believer in his NBA talent. One thing I am a believer in is his athleticism, is his jumping ability. I am a firm believer in that. But as an overall NBA talent, I am not a believer in Zion Williamson. I do believe Zion Williamson will be a bust when the time comes.
Now, because of the injury or just because he's so raw that he'll never be able to play enough to develop that other end of the talent that I was talking about.
Speedy, why does my show on Facebook say The Haystack and not Third and Long?
You have to refresh the page. I edited it later.
Oh, okay. But again, I sit here and I look at this. Zion Williamson hasn't even played a game yet. Okay?
Right.
Everybody and their mother knows how I feel about Zion Williamson. Everybody knows that I don't think he's going to be a good NBA player. Maybe he could be a good role player in the NBA. Fine. But when you're picked number one, you're supposed to be something special. And he is definitely not something special. Now, can you call him the next Anthony Bennett? No, not yet. But
everyone knew Anthony Bennett was a reach anyway in that draft.
But at number one, yeah, exactly. At number one, he was kind of a reach. But again, you sit here and you think, and you look at Anthony Bennett. They almost have the same body type. Okay, Zion Williamson's a bit bigger in width and muscle and all that stuff. More of an athletic freak. But here's one thing: the NBA nowadays, Speedy, and you and I both know this, is a shooting league. You have to be able to shoot one way or another if you want to succeed at the NBA level. Unless you're a 7'1", a 7-foot center, and even some of those could step out and shoot a three. You look at Zion Williamson. He's 6'6", 285 pounds, and he can't shoot. He can't create his own shot off the dribble. Now, if he's inside the paint, he's scoring inside the paint. I'm not going to be that naive and say he's not going to score in the paint. But when you're 6'6", if you're going to play in the paint, you're going up against guys that are 6'10" and weigh almost as much as you. They're going to be, and probably could jump higher, some of them, than you. They could block your shot, okay? Now, I sit here and I look, if he plays on the perimeter, he's too slow to sit on the perimeter because you
right, but he's not a perimeter player.
But that's what but at 6'6", you can't be someone on the block. Tell me someone who is in the NBA now who is 6'6" or smaller that plays on the block and is an NBA All-Star.
Plays on the block? What do you mean? Just in like a power forward center type?
Yeah.
6'6". I think the only one is Draymond, I think.
And that would be it.
Right. That's the only one that I can think of. Now, here's the thing, though.
Is Draymond a superstar?
No, he's a good player, not a superstar. But still, let me ask you this, though, because
ask me away.
Because we know that the NBA, the way it's shifting, there's a lot of hybrid positions now. There's a lot of guys of different body types, different skill sets, playing center, playing power forward, stuff like that. And the league as a whole is getting smaller. You're not as much true centers anymore. Do you think that when Zion does hit his potential peak that he could hit, obviously depending on his injuries, where he would enter his prime at, let's say 23 years old, where he would actually enter this is Zion at its fullest potential. You think the league could definitely shift to that by then, though? Maybe away from those smaller type or larger types players that maybe are still in the league just from the previous NBA?
I don't think it's going to shy away from that. Now, you talk about this positionless league, and I get it. It is positionless.
There's a lot of hybrids in terms of guys.
But not hybrids that are 6'6" and can't shoot. You're talking about hybrids who are 6'9", 6'10", 6'11", who are playing the center position, who weigh 185 pounds, but they could step outside and shoot the three at a consistent basis. Something Zion Williamson can't do.
But I'm not even talking about just big men. I'm talking about just as a whole. There's point guards that can attack. There are shooting guards that are 6'8" and 6'7" because of what Kobe changed the league to be.
But this is my point exactly. You're talking about shooting guards, and you brought up Kobe Bryant. And can Kobe Bryant shoot and create for himself?
Yes, of course. But
Zion Williamson can't do any of that for himself or shoot the ball.
I'm not even talking about which skill set is an emphasis. I'm talking about just the positions as a whole. You have big men that can pass now. You have point guards and shooting guards that can attack. They can get to the line and shoot free throws. Russell Westbrook, he's not really a great shooter, but he's a dominant attacking point guard. That was something we never saw in previous NBAs, really, until
he's not a good three-point shooter. That's one thing for sure.
No, I know that. That's what I'm saying. But he's still a really good player.
Yeah, but you brought up a point guard who is 6'4", that has a very, very good handle, who is very, very athletic, and does create jump shots for himself. You see him with his pull-ups every which way. He doesn't hit them often, but he does hit them once in a while. Have you ever seen Zion Williamson dribble like Russell Westbrook and pull up from 17 feet? You want to know how many 17-foot jumpers he shot in college? 3.
Okay.
and 2 of them were because he thought it was a 3-point shot and his foot was on the line. He doesn't take any jump shots.
That's fine.
That's the problem, is that in this day and age in the NBA, you have to be able to shoot the basketball if you want to be successful, especially at 6'6". Now, again, if Zion Williamson was 6'10", 6'11", 7 foot, and this athletic and 285 pounds, you wouldn't hear a peep from me. I would probably be putting him on the Mount Rushmore of the greatest basketball players of all time in the NBA. But he's not 6'10", 6'11", 7 foot. He's only 6'6". And he does take a lot of beating on his knees that his body can't handle. And it's showing by the injury he already had, by getting surgery on his knees. And don't get me wrong, he looked good in warm-ups and stuff you see all over social media and ESPN and whatnot. He looked very athletic still and all that good stuff. Fine and dandy. His body still looks the same. He still looks every much of that 285 pounds, okay? He's just a big, stocky guy, and I feel that he is not going to be anything special in the NBA because he doesn't have a defined skill set. All he has is athleticism.
Now, here's the other thing I look at, too. Obviously, we don't know when his actual peak's going to be, because if this injury does hinder him and maybe another major injury does come with this kind of body type, because you're right, it's a very weird body type. Now, him kind of knowing what the NBA has shifted to. We know as a three-point league in comparison to maybe some guys that started in maybe at the end of this last decade or started when it was before the Warriors dominated the league the way they did. Do you think him having that knowledge of that could still help him maybe grow?
Who? Zion Williamson? Having the knowledge of what?
Having the knowledge that the NBA is the way it is right now. Because obviously we knew of him as a high school prospect, and the league was like that. The Warriors were dominating with the three-point shots. Other teams were duplicating.
Steph Curry changed the landscape of the NBA.
That's my point. That's my point. And now we're seeing guys that didn't start in that time or didn't dominate that skill set later in that time doing that. Blake Griffin did it later in his career. Blake Griffin didn't start in that era. Blake Griffin was drafted in 2009.
But look, Blake Griffin changed his entire game.
That's my
now
point.
He's able to. Now, am I saying that Zion Williamson in 8-9 years can't change his game to develop a jump shot? No.
I don't know if he can or not. I'm not saying that he definitively will be able to.
Then I don't know what you're trying to get at here, Speedy.
What I'm saying is because he knows the league's trends of it's a three-point league, we're seeing more big guys that could shoot. Will that help him be able to prepare for it more where he could...
He should be doing it right now instead of dunking the basketball. He shouldn't even be going inside the paint. He should be doing everything outside the paint and trying to develop a jump shot.
That's my point, though. Do you think that knowledge will help him be able to do that?
It should, but who knows? Who knows if it will? It should.
Maybe quicker than somebody like a Blake Griffin who kind of did it later in his career, or somebody like Aaron Gordon who done it the last 2 years but really didn't do that before that.
It should. It should. But again, you bring up guys that are 6'10 and 6'11 in Aaron Gordon and Blake Griffin. Aaron Gordon was 6'10, 6'11. Blake Griffin is 6'10, 6'11. These are big boys. Zion Williamson is only 6'6". Maybe at 6'6" is pushing it because you know how NBA likes to give everybody an extra half inch or an extra inch or whatever it is. I firmly believe Zion Williamson's about 6'5 and a half, 6'5 3/4. That's my firm belief about Zion Williamson. But again, they list him at 6'6", fine, whatever. But this guy isn't big. He's a shooting guard. He's a shooting guard in a power forward's body, and he doesn't have the skill set to play shooting guard. If he had again, Speedy, and I've said this over and over again, if he had a jump shot at his size right now, you wouldn't be hearing a peep of me making fun of him, taking shots at him, and whatnot. But he doesn't have anything. All he has is athleticism. That's it.
Well, that's fair. I'm just saying, unless he's going to be hindered by these major injuries his whole career. He has this one, then he has one maybe 2 years later. That's different because then we can say, all right, yeah, he's going to have a lot of trouble because these injuries are going to hold him back. And even if when he does play, those injuries are going to hold him back because they're going to keep reoccurring. I'm just talking about from the perspective of how raw he is, how the game could change, and like I said, the knowledge of him coming into the league when he did in comparison to when Blake Griffin came in the league.
Yeah, but you're asking an open-ended question because my answer is this: with him sitting on the bench for this long, can he possibly see what's going on in the NBA and change his game? Absolutely. Should he be doing this instead of dunking the basketball? Absolutely. But only time will tell if he put in the effort to do things like this. And right now, it's not showing that he's doing anything. Every time I see him on ESPN, he's dunking the basketball. Even in practices now with the Pelicans and stuff, I'm not seeing any jump shots whatsoever.
Now, here's my thing, though, with that, because we don't know what he's doing, obviously, off camera. He could be practicing this in gym sessions and practices and workouts that he does privately. Who says he's not doing that, again, just to still personify his image, still to get, how do I put it, still to entertain the kids and still get video that way?
Trust me, if there was video of him shooting jump shots and him actually hitting jump shots, they would be on social media or they would be on ESPN. It's the fact is that if he is doing that, he's not hitting them.
Okay, I don't even know if he is either because there's no proof of it. But I'm more judging from the work ethic standpoint more than I am from the actual video proof standpoint. Because remember, he's still 19 years old. I think it'd be a little different if he was a 4-year senior and still very raw at 22 or 23. I think that'd be a little different. He's still 19, so I think just him still being very raw in those areas, there's still a chance for him to do it. And maybe he's just doing
And again, I think there is a chance for him to do it, but I don't see him putting in the effort right now of him doing that. There's nothing that shows that he's able to do that. And I'm intrigued to see him go up against Coach Popovich his first game.
And you don't know if he is or not because we don't have proof right now. But
Exactly.
I'm just saying I'm not going to penalize him just because there's no proof.
No, but you can penalize him for being out this long. His body, he needed to lose weight. He didn't lose weight. And now, Speedy, I ask you this. 1, do you think he's going to get load management right away? And 2, do you think him being 285 pounds and only 6'6" is going to take a toll on his knees going forward, which obviously it's showing it is?
In terms of load management, it's possible. I don't really know much about the Pelicans in terms of what their plans are going to be, but they're not a good team. So definitely load management is possible. But at the same time, you still want to experiment with him to some extent when he does play. So that's number 1. Number 2, I think the weight thing is interesting because he's hurt right now, and obviously his injury we didn't know really until after the Summer League, until kind of the end of that Summer League, because how many games did he play? He played 2, I think, and then he got hurt. Or
2 or 3, whatever.
Yeah, okay. So we kind of knew that in the Summer League, but we didn't expect it to go on this long. We were thinking, all right, he might miss the first month of the season. All right, he might miss a month and then maybe 2 weeks. But we didn't expect it to go on to this long. Who says he didn't have the time to be able to lose that weight because he was still rehabbing, he was still recovering from
What do you mean?
injury?
If you're recovering from your injury, that gives you more time to lose your weight than anything. It gives you more time to eat healthier. It gives you more time to, obviously, once you get the surgery he got done is within a week or 2, he's able to walk and do exercises and stuff. It's all about your diet, to be honest with you. And
I mean, it's
he's
possible.
in New Orleans.
You're right.
It's not easy to eat healthy in New Orleans.
That's the other part, too. That can make it hard. And also, again, those kinds of things for somebody that is that young, eating healthier does cost more, too. And that could be something that could hurt somebody that he's not making these big money yet. He's making good money, but it still could be hard for him to do it kind of consistently is what I'm saying. And in order to lose that much weight, because he's 283 pounds, like you were saying, and for somebody his body type, it's usually 6'6". I mean, you could be like that for a football player, but it's generally like in the 250, 260 range for a basketball player that size at most.
Listen, the fact of the matter is this guy hasn't played all season. His body is already hurting his knees. Do I think his knees, and do I think he's going to have load management right off the bat for the rest of his career? 100%, because it's obviously showing he's not putting in the work to lose the weight to help keep his body fit and going forward. I think his body and his weight is going to take a toll on him, and I don't think he's going to have a superstar career. I think he's just going to be a regular old NBA player, maybe averaging 10, 12 points here and there. I mean, I just don't see it unless he develops a jump shot and he loses weight. And I don't see that happening right now with Zion Williamson.
Now, even if he doesn't develop that, I'm just curious, do you think he could still succeed as just putting up great numbers as a traditional big man? You don't think
because he's not a big man at 6'6". He's going to get dominated down low, regardless of him being 285 pounds. These guys are 6 inches bigger than him, and they have a longer reach than him. He's going to be able to dunk on some, of course, but he's going to get his stuff blocked and punched every which way.
Okay, so you don't think he would even just do that without the shot anyway?
No,
just being maybe the exception to the norm.
No.
Okay. By the way, we do have another Vinny sighting. He says Zion will dominate as he did in preseason.
Oh, God. This guy, Vinny Rubo, he's such a delusional lover of Zion Williamson. This guy also told me that Zion Williamson would win Rookie of the Year. He also told me Zion Williamson wouldn't be hurt. Look, he's hurt already. 3 games into the 3 months in, he hasn't stepped foot on an NBA floor because he's too big. Everything I've said already on this topic plenty of times. So I take what Vinny Rubo really is the mush of everything, and his word has no credibility because he thinks that he probably still thinks Zion Williamson is going to win Rookie of the Year. He probably still believes that. Missing 3 or 4 months, he probably still thinks Zion Williamson is going to win Rookie of the Year.
Now.
No, obviously,
Ja Morant's way too good.
And even if Zion Williamson was in the league right now, Ja Morant is still winning the Rookie of the Year just because of how he's playing. Because let's be real here, Zion Williamson can't do what Ja Morant can do, and that's dribble, shoot, pass, all that stuff. The only thing that Zion Williamson can do is jump. He's an athletic freak, and that's it.
And for Ja Morant's position, he can jump.
Oh, yeah. Ja Morant could get up there, that's for sure. But ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to end on that note because Vinny's going to try and fire me up, and I'm not going to allow that. But we had a good show today. We will be back tomorrow at 4:15 p.m. You'll have myself and Mr. Speedy Petey here tomorrow as we divulge into the conference championship games. And you guessed it, it's Thursday Pick'ems. So we'll get into that tomorrow here at the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
You're listening to the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.